If you run a self-insured company, you know one of the toughest numbers to pin down is the money you need to set aside for healthcare claims, the ones that have already happened but haven't hit your desk yet. It's this massive, unpredictable liability on the balance sheet. Well, today we're going to look at a new patented system that's creating a whole new class of data you can actually trust, aiming to bring some real certainty to a very uncertain world. Okay, let's get into it.
So here's how we'll break it down. First up, we'll dive into the core problem with what are called IBNR liabilities. Then, we'll look at why the data we've been using just doesn't cut it anymore. After that, we'll introduce the VIDAT system, see how it plays by the very strict rules actuaries live by, and finally, we'll connect the dots to the impact on the bottom line and even on ESG reporting.
All right, let's jump right in with the biggest headache for any self-insured organization. How in the world do you put a number on a liability that, by definition, you can't even see yet?
And this quote just hits the nail on the head. We are not talking about some minor accounting entry here. For a lot of CFOs, the IBNR reserve is a huge source of anxiety. It's a black hole of financial uncertainty that ties up a ton of working capital that could be doing something, productive for the business.
So just so we're all on the same page, IBNR stands for incurred but not reported. Think of it this way. Your employees have already been to the doctor, but the bills are still making their way through the maze of paperwork. The company owes that money, and estimating that number correctly, that's one of the most critical jobs an actuary has.
Okay, so the next obvious question is, if it's so important, why is it so darn hard to get right? Well, the answer, as it so often is, comes down to the data, or really the lack of good data. You see, the way it's always been done is by looking in the rearview mirror. Actuaries analyze historical trends, looking at how long it took claims to come through last year or the year before that. But let's be honest, in a world where things change so fast, trying to drive your business forward by only looking at where you've been, well, that's a recipe for disaster. And this slide, wow, this just lays out the problem perfectly. On the left, you've got the old way of doing things. Data from a wellness app that's self-reported or just assumed. There's no proof, no chain of custody. For an actuary who needs hard facts, it's basically worthless. But on the right, that's the gold standard. Data that's verified externally, that's unchangeable, auditable, and meets the profession's strict data quality standards. It's a night and day difference.
So how do we bridge that massive credibility gap? This is where things get really interesting. A new technology has entered the scene, designed from the ground up to create a completely new kind of empirical, auditable data. So let me introduce you to VIDAT. It's a US patented system, and the name pretty much tells the whole story. Verification, inspection, demonstration, analysis, and testing. The entire point of this system is to take a real-world action, like an employee riding their bike to work, and turn it into a piece of data that is so rock-solid, so immutable, that it can stand up in a financial audit. Now, it's super important to be clear about what VIDAT is not. This is not just another fitness app on your phone. It's not some magic wand that automatically lowers your health costs. And, this is the big one, it absolutely does not replace the professional judgment of an actuary or just spit out free cash. It's a new, highly reliable data input tool for the actuary to use, plain and simple.
I love this slide because it gets right to a key concern: privacy. When people hear data capture, their minds often jump straight to surveillance. But that's not what's happening here. VIDAT is a verification system, not a tracking system. It isn't watching you 24/7. It's designed to confirm a specific fact at a specific time. Did this event happen? Yes or no. It delivers a clean, auditable evidence package, not a constant surveillance feed. For any institution, that distinction is everything.
Okay, so we've established that we have this incredible, high-integrity data, but the million-dollar question remains, how does an actuary actually use it? I mean, their entire profession is built on incredibly strict standards and regulations. The secret sauce that makes the data so trustworthy is this multi-layered process. Think of it like a 5-factor authentication for the real world. It's not just a GPS ping. First, an NFC card authenticates the person. Then it confirms their specific mobile device. Then it binds to the actual asset, like the e-mic itself. It captures the motion data, and finally locks the whole thing with a temporal marker. No single piece is enough. It's the entire sequence working together that creates that audit-grade record.
And the big question is, does it actually work?
Oh, yeah. In real-world production deployments, we're talking about a verification success rate of over 99.5%. That's the kind of bulletproof reliability you absolutely have to have for institutional use.
So here's how that rock-solid data is integrated professionally. The entire process follows the official rulebook for actuaries called the Actuarial Standards of Practice, or ASOPs. First, under ASOP 23, the actuary has to check if the data is even good enough to use. Then, under ASOP 25, they decide how much weight to give it, its credibility. Only then, under ASOP 5, can it start to impact the financial assumptions. And finally, ASOP 41 requires that the whole process and its impact are disclosed with complete transparency. It's a disciplined, professional workflow from start to finish.
All right, so because we've followed this really disciplined process, we can now connect this new data to real-world results. Let's talk about the payoff. What does this all mean for the bottom line? Okay, this slide is maybe the most important one for anyone in finance because it's all about setting the right expectations. The wrong way to think about this is VIDAT is a magic button that frees up cash. That's just not true. The correct, and more importantly, the defensible way to frame this is that VIDAT provides a trustworthy signal that helps actuaries reduce uncertainty. And when you reduce uncertainty, you reduce the need to hold on to excessively large cash reserves. That's where the capital efficiency comes from. So, for any CFOs watching, this is your key takeaway. The financial win here is about reserve efficiency. You're not making a required liability disappear. You are getting much, much smarter and more precise about how you provision for it, all because you're grounding your assumptions in better, verifiable data.
And for the auditors out there, this is the language that you need to hear. This isn't some mysterious black box. The entire proposition is controlled, it's documented, it's based on specific cohorts, and it's sensitivity tested. It provides a clear, evidence-based trail that supports the actuary's professional judgment.
And what's really cool is that the impact doesn't stop with healthcare reserves. One single verified event, like that bike commute, can produce multiple valuable outputs. The very same record that informs the actuary can be used as a verified input for your ESG report, specifically Scope 3 Category 7 emissions. It can even provide hard data for cities planning new infrastructure. It's a true multi-purpose asset.
So let's wrap this all up and just take a moment to consider what a fundamental shift this really represents.
You know, for decades, we've all looked at IBNR as a healthcare cost problem. But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? What if the root cause isn't the cost, but the data? And that leads to a pretty provocative question I'll leave you with. In a business where every other major number is scrutinized and audited, could it be that unverified, assumed data about what people are actually doing is the single largest unmanaged risk on your balance sheet?
If this has piqued your interest and you want to dive deeper into how verified data is such transform finance and actuarial work, you should absolutely follow the Dandy Horse on YouTube and connect on LinkedIn. Thanks so much for watching.